I also support strongly this move with Sophie's Law to give recognition to an unborn babe that was so well loved and about to be welcomed into a family, but for a criminal act that ripped that young life away from this family. And I want to honour and acknowledge the Milosevics and the journey they've been on to see recognition that this was a child, this was a baby that they wanted to have recognised, and that there were many others who've suffered terrible criminal offences that have resulted in the premature and cruel death of their unborn children. And certainly it's a story that we wish didn't have others, but we know others as examples, but we know, unfortunately, that has been the case. So these amending provisions in this Justice and Other Legislation Amendment Bill will provide the opportunity where families want recognition of that unborn child to have to state the name or a description of the unborn child. And as has been outlined, there may be other provisions to also provide appropriate aggravating circumstances in the way that the offences are dealt with in the courts. I want to reference something that I think we shouldn't lose sight of, because it has really been an incredibly long struggle for this family and others to see recognition, and there is bipartisan support in this legislation to do that here today. I want to remember another brave young woman, and her name was Tracy Wooding, who raised the issue of the tragic killing of her unborn baby by her violent partner, who attacked her when she was pregnant with the intention of killing the unborn child. And Tracy was 8 months pregnant at the time, and her violent partner or ex-partner succeeded, and her baby boy, Zach, was born dead. Even though at 8 months of gestation he could have been, in other circumstances but for this attack, could have been born alive in our hospitals. But the law didn't recognise this child's death, and so there became a campaign for another very brave person, a brave woman, to see the law changed. And while the change of the law wouldn't have brought back her baby, it did end up in seeing the Criminal Code amended in 1997 under Attorney General Denver Beanland. We were able to insert provisions into the Criminal Code to recognise that this attack on a pregnant woman causing the death or injury of her unborn child needed a penalty in the law. Now, that should have been common sense, but unfortunately, as we found, there was a lot of opposition. Eventually, we had bipartisan support on the floor in regard to amending the Criminal Code, but not for all babies. And there was, unfortunately, opposition from the Labor Party drawing a line as to which babies were to be included and which ones weren't. But that was the story, and I want to recognise Tracy Wooding because it has been a tough battle for brave women, brave couples to raise these issues, because too many times people say, oh, this is an abortion issue, or we don't want to trigger an abortion issue. And I know that there are very strong views around abortion. I understand that. But unfortunately, for many unborn children, even where they were wanted by their families, they had been left in a situation without the protection of law. So the law was changed in Section 313 back in 1997, and now today we see the law extended in respect to this aspect of a criminal offence that wasn't captured under that circumstance of a assault of a woman, but in this case in regard to, more generally, other criminal offences. And this is a step forward. But let's not forget that these babies, some families desperately want them, they deserve to be recognised, and their families deserve all the support they can get. And we must understand, if I was to reflect back on that Section 313 in the Criminal Code, there are a lot of pregnant women who suffer domestic violence. And the figures shown then, as they do today, that unfortunately these laws have to be there. You would hope they'd be a deterrent, but there should certainly be justice for those who find themselves in the circumstances where they are attacked, or with regard to this legislation before the House, where a criminal offence causes the death of their unborn baby. I want to address an ongoing creep in regard to the move to erase women from the statute book, the definition of women. And as I understand, the Criminal Code definition of a woman still stands in regard to the legislation, where it refers to, let me quote, a woman means a female person of any age. I don't believe that's been deleted from section 319A, but there's been a progressive creep in regard to other areas of law to remove the definition of women from our statute books. Now, I do want to reference this because I am concerned that really concerned that biological women are finding that they are being erased from the statute books and, in many regards, able to defend themselves as to why they shouldn't have their recognition as biological women erased. Women should not be erased. We've fought hard enough to be recognised with equal rights and opportunities without denying our biology, but celebrating it. So a move to increasingly remove or erase women from the statute books is, I think, far more profound and doesn't provide comfort to those who have fought long and hard for the recognition of women. There are many other provisions that are being amended in this legislation, and there's some 30 bills that are being amended. And I want to just reference the fact that the Electoral Act is also has a number of amendments, and it's been noted certainly in the statement of reservation from my colleagues in the LNP, some concerns around the fact that there has to be greater clarity and also certainty as to when redistributions are finalised, because we don't want to see a situation where you have redistributions with new boundaries coming about, and a term here, as soon as practical. There are a time frame to be as soon as practical is pretty open-ended. And the reality is what's practical for perhaps an electoral commission may not be very practical in regard to others who need certainty around when boundaries are changed, because it does have a huge impact. But as I said, there's 30 bills being amended in the legislation before the parliament and many other issues worth addressing. But I wish to particularly say that when we're seeing changes to the Electoral Act, that is no light matter, and that we must ensure that there is not only fairness in the way these matters are handled, but there is an understanding about the practicality of what it may mean on the ground. And I know my colleague, the member for Warrego, also has been very active in respect to raising issues about postal votes and the impact that there have been in regard to some of these matters perhaps not being as transparently dealt with as they should have been. And I want to commend her and her efforts to raise these issues around postal votes to ensure that we have greater fairness and transparency, because it is one means of providing people with an opportunity of voting. And as I understand, there is acknowledgement that just because somebody hasn't put a ballot into an envelope, into the certified envelope, that shouldn't negate it being considered a valid ballot. And I know that certainly representations the member of Warrego has made on this issue, I think, has resulted in recognition that this needed to be addressed. Because where people's intention of how they wish to vote is clear, they shouldn't be denied the opportunity of having their democratic right exercised by that ballot being legitimately handled. I do want to say that we need to also address the fact going forward with postal votes taking longer to reach people. We don't want people removed of their right to vote by delays in the postal system.
Deputy Speaker.